What is a full or standard tummy tuck? A full or standard tummy tuck involves placing an incision at the junction of the pubic area and the lower abdomen. And different plastic surgeons put that incisions a little bit higher or lower depending on their philosophy and technical abilities. Once that incision is placed, then the plastic surgeon cuts through the fat all the way to the muscle. Then the skin and fat are elevated over the muscle up to the navel. An incision is then made around the navel. I like to make that incision elliptically, so the skin and fat is elevated like that as you are flat on your back. Under the skin flap, then he will assess the laxity of your abdominal muscles. Usually, I put my patients back up to 45 degrees angle, and I actually assess and mark the laxity of the muscles. This is also known as rectidiastasis. Your rectus abdominal muscles have separated, and that usually is a result of pregnancy or significant weight gain or any other reason whereby your intra-abdominal tissues expanded over time. As a result of expansion of the intra-abdominal volume, what happens is that the two recti abdominis muscles, which are two bands of muscles that typically are kissing one another, are separated over time. This is best appreciated as a result of pregnancy. So what happens is that the muscles separate and separate and separate, accommodating a growing fetus. After the pregnancy, the muscles typically come together, but they don't kiss one another anymore. The connection between the muscles is just a fibrous band of tissue or connective tissue, and it's super thin, almost paper thin. So the muscles are always separated. As the patient becomes pregnant again, this process is repeated a few more times, and then the muscles become more and more separated. So at the time of a tummy tuck, typically when the skin and fat is lifted off of the muscles, we can appreciate that separation. We can actually see visually the borders of the muscles that have become separated. And then by placing sutures starting all the way at the top, we will repair the muscles, bring them together, make sure they're kissing and sometimes even overlapping one another if needed, so that the abdominal wall, which is a muscular wall, becomes tighter again and flat. And that's really important because if you don't tighten the muscles fully, then you will always have a little bit of abdominal wall laxity. The abdominal wall is the wall underneath the skin and the fat. And therefore, if it's wobbly, if it's distended, your abdominoplasty will not be as optimal as you desire. So typically I tighten it starting at the top, going all the way to the navel. I've already cut around the navel, and then I come back on myself. So 2 layers of what we call imbrication or repair, or putting the muscles back together. And then I start below the navel and go all the way to the pubic rim and then come back on myself again. In this manner, I will tighten the abdominal muscles twice. I will flatten the patient, and then I will bring their back up and make sure that in both positions, the abdominal muscles are tight. Once that happens, then with a standard tummy tuck, the upper abdominal incision is made. The upper abdominal incision typically goes through the navel opening, meaning that the hole around the navel is cut out completely. The navel is still here, but the incision is placed in such a way that the hole around the navel is now removed with the excess skin. That excess skin is completely removed, and then the upper incision is brought down to meet the lower incision. Now this abdomen has no holes, so the navel cannot be brought through, but the navel is still over the muscle. So now we'll make an incision in the midline, create a new opening, and then pull the navel through. As many of you have seen multiple pictures, the way that the navel opening is recreated varies from one plastic surgeon to another. I have plastic surgeons that think that the star shape is great, or oval shape, or round shape. In reality, many years ago, Plastic surgeons did a study on navel shape, and they determined that the best aesthetically pleasing navel is elliptical and vertically oriented. Once the navel is cut around, then your plastic surgeon will continue to elevate the skin and fat off of the muscle all the way to the rib cage. And that's what you had when you were 16 or 18 or 19 prior to pregnancy. So that is what I follow. Essentially understanding what a beautiful navel is. So we create an elliptically vertical incision around the navel. We'll pull the navel through and suture it within the inside of the incision. So many times when you come back and look at my before and afters, you can't even see the scar around the navel. The reason I do it that way is because then nobody will know that you have had a tummy tuck when you're wearing a bikini.